Check, check. How we sounding? Right, sounds good. Got a couple devices on. Make sure we're all working here. Good afternoon, Charles. Welcome. And welcome to Market Psychology 101, where we look for value in the markets when there's fear and are cautious when there's greed. We're going to be taking a quick rundown through stocks and then, of course, getting into crypto. Any technical analysis you guys want, please request that in the comments below. But let's quickly go through the stock market because we've had some exciting times this week, challenging the former all-time high. Semiconductors doing well. You can see we're up in the greed territory. Actually, a bit surprised we're not higher in greed. One of the charts I've been talking about all the stock market videos is this inauguration dump. But, with revisiting the all-time highs, wouldn't we be somewhere around here? Again, this is just an average of what the markets do since inauguration since 1932. So maybe we can expect something and then, pull back to those all-time highs, continue up. I don't believe we are in a recessionary environment. So now's the time to watch to see if we take off higher, if that's in play. Another thing that we are going to take a look at is just, these other macro indicators, how they all line up. We want to see how many of our data points agree with each other. Second year, the presidential cycle tends to be the weakest. So, just keep that in the back of your mind. Also, keep in mind that should we get any sort of recession correction in the next few years, when you get pullbacks 25% plus, you really want to be greedy and aggressive. It's hard to in those times because all the bad news, there's blood in the streets, this and that. That'll be something to watch for. And we've been taking a look at the PE ratios. At least from the last 30 years, you can see just the PE ratios alone can get a bit higher, kind of looking for that 40 number. But really, I think the Schiller PE ratio is a great chart to watch for. And I've been talking a lot about, is this 1998 2.0 where we had that pullback and then we rock it up again? You can see the Schiller P going into the low 40s. If we get into the low mid 40s, you got to be careful there. Going over to crypto fear and greed, you can see we've been hovering around that greed area, extreme greed. Maybe we're going to get one more little correction and then go up. Yeah, if we were to see crypto get into all-time highs, then of course I think extreme greed will return. Charles wants Tesla as well as Doge. Charles, I have two bits of good news for you. I have a video uploading right now. I did my Doge price prediction video where I go very much in depth for my price targets for Doge. So stay tuned for that later. And yeah, we'll talk about Tesla, the usually the number one traded stock, at least has been for a while. And getting over, this is something to watch this summer. Summer, I feel like, I don't know if you guys feel this way too, but summer is kind of the most boring time of the year for stocks and crypto. And this is part of the reason. It's the weakest stretch between June and September as far as returns. People are on vacation. They're not really thinking about charts and how their stocks and cryptos are doing as much, I guess. But, we're almost through June here. I'm expecting July to be pretty positive. It is the most positive of the summer months. For stocks especially, things are setting up for July to be pretty good. So we'll see if that happens. Of course, if things pull back in August, September, that's not surprising. Do be on the lookout for that. But also, when we are in the years of the cycle tops, look how good the summer was in 2017. 2020, remember, we had alt season here in April. Look how good the summer was. Now, June and September sucked, but overall, it really wasn't bad. So, if the summer isn't bad, I think that's another data point to say that we're on our way to alt season. And as we are on our way to the cycle top and hopefully alt season, I will keep saying this. There are many crypto projects. If you watch my miners videos, the mining stocks tend to top with Bitcoin. MicroStrategy tops with or before, but many of the altcoins they top after because of the rotation. So people are saying there's no alt season, this and that. We haven't had Bitcoin top, so that is inaccurate when people are making that claim. Once Bitcoin tops, then we will see. That's where we see that divergence with altcoins and Bitcoin. So something to watch for is, if Bitcoin gets to that area between 150, 200K, what are the altcoins going to do? I think there's going to be an even more massive rotation. And then also on the way to the top, do know there are pullbacks. There are pullbacks even very closely to the top that can be 20, 30, 40%. So do not get flushed out on the way to the top. Crypto is not for the faint of heart. And as far as alt season, you can see we're just kind of accumulating here. We're definitely Bitcoin strong right now, and alts are bleeding against Bitcoin. And, could they bleed more? Sure. But these are not areas for altcoins that I'm going to miss. Bitcoin very close to all-time highs. A lot of altcoins aren't. So I am feeling very good about these prices for altcoins. I'm not going to deviate from my plan or strategy or outlook until things break or are proven otherwise. Getting over into the rainbow chart, you can see here, I think the old rainbow chart shows this even better, how these tops regress over time. That was the old rainbow chart. Even the new one, you see how these tops regress or go down in these logarithmic regressions. So I'm really looking at these orange areas. You can see the orange areas somewhere between 150, 200K. That's where the fibs line up. Right now, Bitcoin, after it gets these tops, it goes down a band or two. Tops goes down a band or two. A little bit of a top. Is it going to go into that green band, which is 80 to 100K? It may be, but if it were to settle somewhere around this yellow band, you can see the lower area of the yellow band is around 100K. And look at where the first orange area is. Let's go out into July, mid-July. The orange area is 130, 170K. So could we see a big move in July somewhere between that 130, 150K area? That is something I am personally watching for. I do think big moves could be coming for crypto sometime just out of the blue, really. And as far as mining stocks, we'll talk about these briefly. Coors was doing pretty well recently. There was another company that I think was going to acquire them, shooting the price up. That is one of those miners. I am very cautious about those. So, not for everyone. There's Doge up for you, Charles. Like I said, I did a Doge video earlier today, but we'll get into that later. Let's just do a couple quick bits of stock information. So S&P getting into new all-time high territory today. So we are breaking up. Where was that one chart? Here we go. We are on our way up here, but as this shows, are we going to retest those former all-time highs, maybe even dip it above? You can see this big dip right here. Might that be the September pullback that we push up for a little bit? And then September, we get back down somewhere around the 6K area. We're just taking a macroscopic or a macro perspective here, an almanac perspective. The VIX, I would assume, is low, and yes, it is. Let's throw on our moving averages, and you can see low VIX, those are good times. Could it go even lower? Possibly. But when it does get a bit detached from moving averages, those are areas where I hesitantly wait for a pullback. When things are too good for a little bit, sometimes those pullbacks are around the corner because a positive move could be getting exhausted. Let me get some water. Sorry for the drinking ASMR sounds. As far as the percent of stocks above their 200-day average, we can see running into the 200, literally the 200-day moving average. But again, that's different. These are the percent of stocks that are above their 200-day moving average. That is about 47% of all stocks. If it gets above that blue line, that's going to be very good. And we can see those tops are kind of between, let's just say the mid 60s on higher to the 70s. When it gets 70, be careful. When we are getting in a bubble, 90, that is an area to watch for. How far back can we go here? Let's go all the way back pre 2008 financial crisis, 75. But let's go to 2001. I'm curious. And it is not, oh my God. Of course, there's no data further back. I wanted to see what the dot-com bubble was showing us, but we don't have that information. I apologize. I was getting excited there. Something to keep watch of is the quantitative tightening versus quantitative easing chart. This is the U.S. Central Bank balance sheet. You can see last time the Fed went to QE, and again, it sometimes has, rate cuts go along with it, sometimes not. But you can see that massive liquidity injection when we were getting all our stimmies, 3 trillion printed out of thin air right there. But that 100-month moving average is where we've bottomed before, and we are doing a trigger words soft landing on that 100-month moving average. And the Fed's talked about not raising rates. And if inflation came in a little bit hotter, I think inflation was going to come out soon. They're not going to go to QE or rate cuts anytime soon, as much as Trump would love that. And going over to the yield curve uninversion chart, something to watch is that when the yield curves have uninverted, we've seen during these bigger recession times about a 600-day delay. But something to keep in mind is yields were spiking during this time, so it's easy to go into bonds, treasuries instead of stocks. You get that good return. Right now, we're seeing it staircase. So unless we see yields spiking, I'm not as concerned yet. But that 20-week moving average, we're getting close to that, and that has been staircasing up off the 20. But if it is able to break down and through, I think, we could still see good prices for a little bit longer. Something else that's different is that we were inverted for longer too. So maybe the recession is just a touch bit further out. We talked about start of the video, second year presidential cycle, not so great. We also talked about the rainbow chart, and there's that 4-year cycle factor, which would say, later this year, early next year would be the top, but then later next year, 26 would be bad. Those are a lot of data points to sort of say that, 600 days out, 2026, middle, later half, it could be bad. We'll see. Unemployment still at 4.2. I wanted to check inflation. Let's see. How is inflation doing? And yeah, a little bit of a tick up here just on the general inflation chart. If it gets back up to that 3%, I think that would definitely be something to watch out for. And you know what? Let's just get into Bitcoin. Let's get into crypto. Before we get into crypto, sorry, Charles, I did not want to forget you. Let's do Tesla. Let's do Tesla for you, and then we will get into Bitcoin. So Tesla, let's put this baby on the log. Here we go. You can see we are still within that ascending channel. It is kind of curious to me how when it got to the middle sort of hash line, part of that descending or ascending channel, that it came down, bought up nicely off that micro, what is that, the 3-2 fib at around 293, came back up again, encountering a little bit of resistance here at 356, 357. Something I talked about in yesterday's stock video is, stocks like Apple, how Apple has diverged from Microsoft. Microsoft, Nvidia doing well right now, Apple lagging behind. So I said, maybe Apple's getting ready to move. Something else to consider is, Tesla. How does Tesla fit in with some of these stocks as well? So if we add in let's just do Nvidia. I'm curious to see how this would look. We're just going to go back a little bit through this. So it does look like there's some correlation. Now, NVIDIA, obviously, it's the pink line here. Sometimes there you can see it moving ahead a little bit of divergence, and then Tesla catches up. So, is this showing that? Let me get rid of this real quick. Is this showing that if Tesla is able to get past this 618 at around 356, that we might see a big move up to that 487 area, possibly? But that 618, my hesitation is twofold. One, 618 is notorious for the lower high area, 618, 786. So I do watch for those being lower highs. But also look at this wick. I mean, we have the body, the candle body right there at that micro point 0.5, but the wick coming up to the 618. When you have a larger wick above, that means there's a lot of good sell pressure in that area. So, let's take a look at the daily. Daily to me looks a little bit better where it's at with Tesla right here, settling on that point 0.5. So, you know, could it challenge it again? Sure. Yeah, Tesla. I have a hard. I'll be forthcoming with you. I'm not in Tesla. I have a hard time with it because it is the number one traded stock, and it doesn't move normally. So, I think a lot of people who are more traders are into Tesla. It is an interesting area right here, though. And if it is going to play catch up with the rest of the stock market, those might be some good things down the line. Let's take a look at the stochastic. Stochastic, it looks like it wants to turn back up, which is good. The monthly, I mean, those are a couple bullish signs, in my opinion. Let's take a look at the MACD quick, and then we'll go to crypto. If any of you are waiting for some crypto analysis, it's on the way. I promise. We have a dark green MACD. It's not light green. It's not coming down. So I'd say the MACD still looks decent on that. So Charles, hope you liked the technical analysis. All right, let's get into Bitcoin. And for Bitcoin, something I've been watching for is, we have these series of higher highs. We also have Bitcoin in a descending channel here. So the upper part of that channel is around 109. We have this level around 110 and a half. I'm looking horizontally 112 and then here 113. So if this is an inverse head and shoulders, and guys, I'll keep saying this. I'm not too big on the pattern stuff. It's one bit of data, but I don't rely on it completely. But if that is an inverse head and shoulders, we could see bigger moves up coming. Bitcoin, of course, at its most recent low had a nice bounce off that lower end of the channel is creating and that 100-day moving average. So, Bitcoin lagging behind, Nvidia, Microsoft. The stock market, the stocks that are pumping Palantir still, I think, that's showing things are when semiconductors are really pumping, such as Nvidia getting into new all-time high territory. I think that tells me it's risk on. And when it's risk on, the speculative tech assets, there's nothing more speculative and tech than crypto, are not far behind. Also, let's go through our price predictions. So earlier in the video, as I was talking about the rainbow chart, I talked about the orange bands, how, we have this sort of diminished returns, and the orange band is at around that 150 to 200K area, roughly speaking. On the charts, when we have our fib off log, you can see that the 2618, the 3618, 155 to 200K. So that's one area. We also have other indicators such as our log regression and pi cycle. Let's add on both those. So log regression and pi cycle, you'll see where the log regression bands, like our rainbow chart, was topping, middle 3/4 of the way up. Here, 3/4 of the way up. That log regression band, let's put this on auto. 3/4 of the way up is right where that pi cycle top moving average is. I don't think we're going to get a pi cycle top signal this time around because they've gotten weaker each and every top. Last cycle it barely crossed, so I don't think we're getting a pi cycle top. But just running into the moving average like it did in March of 24, I think that happens a lot with stocks and cryptos. When they hit that pi cycle moving average, they'll kind of crawl up with it, or they'll just kind of fall off to the side. In the past, there is plenty of room for it to run up higher. You can see Last cycle, it ran into it, and then second time ran up higher, triggered the pi cycle top when that lower moving average moved across the upper. Same with the cycle before, it was even stronger. And look at all these times it ran into it. But you do see it's getting weaker each time. So if it runs into it, gets up there, somewhere around that. Right now it's at 170. Let's just say 170 to 210K. If Bitcoin's getting up there, that's where I'd be taking a look for a potential top and go back to this, our rotation for Bitcoin. And so let's get rid of those. Those are various reasons why I'm looking for a top above that 150K area. Let's also take a look at Bitcoin dominance. We're waiting for that rotation. Right now, Bitcoin dominance is still climbing. So, from that high to low, let's do our most recent fibs here. From our high to low, let's make sure our fib is on log, which it is. Our next fib target, somewhere around this 68% area. That's the 888. 888 isn't really, always the strongest fib in my opinion. So the fact dominance is getting back up here, I do wonder, let me put it to you this way. We saw Bitcoin dominance. It was dipping, of course, in that 2017 year, but we saw it spike up to this level here at around 71.5% before we had the rotation and alt season. Last cycle, we sort of had a double top off that area. Yes, there were some wicks above, candle bodies did not close above. So I've been altering my perspective on Bitcoin dominance recently. I was hoping that this would be the top. We spiked to it. We were selling off, not getting above. Now we are. And so that tells me that the 64% area, not the top. I was wrong about that. Don't mind admitting it. But let's get rid of this fib. We really don't even need that. I am now looking for possibly the 71% as the Bitcoin dominance top. We have a new person, CRPC, CRV, just a bunch of consonants there. Can you take a look at Lido Finance? Lido. Let's just do that right now. LDO. I'll be honest, I don't know anything about Lido Finance. You're the first person I'm hearing about this from. Looks like it's on Coinbase. Usually the Lido Binance charts are some of the best. Okay, I can see why you're excited about this one. Let's. I want to go to the US dollar one too on Gemini. See if I just wanted to see how much more there was back here. All right, let's take a look at this. So this one came out February of 22. It's been out for a bit. Let's go from that high to that low. All right, a couple things going on here. So it is younger, so the moving averages aren't going to be as great on the weekly. As far as where it is right now, you can see that there's a couple of ways I look for is an asset bullish or bearish. Okay, being above the 50-week moving average, the gold line's one area. When we have a big macro fib and we're above the 382, that's another area. But when we're below both, that tells me, technically speaking, we could still see new lower lows possibly coming. So I don't know anything about Lido Finance, but I would ask you this. What do you like about it? What are the things about Lido Finance that you think are promising for this next cycle? It does have a low market cap, $620 million, so a 10x would be 6.2 billion. Could it get up to 6.2 billion? Heck, where it is right now at 69 cents, if it got back up to its former all-time high, what would that be, like an 8x, something like that? 8 times 7, 54. Yeah, maybe somewhere around there. And so, yeah, or 56, I mean. Yeah, could it do that? I don't know. I'd be curious to see or hear what you like about it. As far as some of our other indicators, let's run through this here. MACD very oversold, though. It does look like it's going more red again here. and there could be more downside. Actually, with the way these candle bodies are, the more it gets under that fib, I'd say, watch for some lower lows here. I'm trying to look and see. There is kind of a channel here. I don't know if you spot that, but we do have these series of higher highs. I love looking for channels. Actually, these channels kind of go further back. So not quite to the top, but we do have a channel here. I'd be watching this channel. I would chart this channel on your trading view as well. And so, that channel could be telling you where some of the bottoms are. But I would be cautious about this. If you're buying, it's an educating gamble. But remember, we're under the 382, so it could always come up and come back down and put in a new lower low. Let's go to some of our other altcoin indicators, and we'll go over to total 3 and the others indicators. So total 3, I do like how this is looking. It's staying bullish above that 50-week moving average, as you can see here, and it's holding on to it. So I know alts have sucked recently. I do think it's a great time to buy in at discounts, and this is telling me if we're able to hold on to the 50-week, remember how I told you that's a bullish signal that we could see some positive movements from alts. And something else to keep in mind, we sold out around the all-time high area before. I'll just go back to what happened the cycle before. Once Bitcoin was getting above its former all-time high area, we didn't have much time left. Okay, it's February 21. Once it got past the 1618, this was alt season right here. So we smacked into the former all-time high, came down. If we are all of a sudden over here in total threes, getting up further, I would be watching for a possible topping area for Bitcoin. Pixel Pusher, what's up, man? How are you? What are your thoughts about possible rate cuts this month? Good question. So we're going to go back to a couple things here. Let's see if I can do this. Unemployment rate, and then can I do this as well? And inflation. Here are two of the main things I watch for possible rate cuts. I know Trump wants big rate cuts. I am concerned about that because when we get big rate cuts, that typically has signaled that the cycle, the bull run we were in for stocks is over. Now, there's a couple things to look for. Is unemployment going up? It's sideways right now. If unemployment really started to spike, that's an argument for rate cuts. What's inflation doing? Is inflation still going down? Technically, yes, it is still going down. But I believe, I may be wrong, I think there was some CPI data coming out sometime soon. Maybe I'm wrong in that. So I'd be watching inflation and unemployment. I've been comparing this sort of AI bubble to the dot-com bubble a little bit, and I would wonder if that maybe we just see rates pause for a little bit, and we don't always need rate cuts. We could, there's different ways to do quantitative easing as well. So do I think rate cuts are coming in July? Trump keeps talking about wanting to fire Powell. We'll see. But from what I know about the Fed, Jerome Powell is not the only guy making the choice. It is a committee choice. I don't know how you can fire one guy and get a completely different thing. I don't know what internal politics are going on inside the Fed. So we'll see. We'll see. But I do compare. Let's turn these off. Let's go to interest rates, US INTR. You can see how we cut by 25 basis points on average. Yes, there is a 50 basis point cut, but remember they paused. So it was an average of 25. When the Fed is cutting by 25 basis points, the market still does good. When they're cutting by 50, not so much. That's just one of the things that's happened in the past. So you can see 25 basis point cuts, holding, even raising, it was fine. When they're cutting by 50, there's a reason for it. Something in the market's broken. When they're cutting by 50, there's a reason for it. Something's broken. This was COVID here when they're cutting by 50. it was, COVID going on here. The market had that pullback in 2022, 21 to 22, and now we've been kind of flat, but the market's still going up. So, um, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I am interested to see what happens with quantitative tightening and easing. We talked about this. Let's go to the monthly. We talked about how on the monthly chart, that 100-month moving average has been when quantitative easing has returned. So we have a bubbly market. If you add in QE and rate cuts on top of that, let's say they're just more tame rate cuts, I think those could all be catalysts or reasons for why this market could take off. Because remember, in 2022, we weren't getting, in 2020, we needed QE to get out of there. We just had a big V bottom reversal in the markets here. What? There is too much going on here. We just had a big sort of V bottom in the markets, very similar, I think, to what we had in 2020. But remember, QE and rate cuts were coming in over here. Okay, we've already surpassed all-time highs, and we don't have QE and rate cuts. So could that turn on the afterburners for another bubble? We'll see. Got a bit of comments to catch up with. Didn't mean to interrupt the flow. That's okay, man. I want these live streams to be conversations, so I appreciate your comments, like the screaming crocodile. Uh, Biggest liquid staking protocol for ETH. The rumor is that the SEC will allow staking for the ETF, so basically it should do very well. Gradual rate cut study in July would help shaking everyone out. Usually pumps when ETH pumps in the same family. Can you check RPL? Same type of protocol. I'm wondering what outer catalyst we need for alts to finally run. Pixel Pusher, I'm not sure how many of my videos you do watch, but the one thing I've been harping on the most, and let's get rid of this. This will be a good time to remind everyone. This right here. Okay. You can go on Google, you can screenshot right now, imprint this into your head. Last cycle, this took a while to play out. There was a general rotation. 2017, there was a very fast rotation. We only need a fast rotation for this to hold true. And I'll prove my point to you right now is that when we add on, let's get rid of this. We're going to clean things up. The white lines are the halvings, by the way. The red lines are the tops of each cycle. So just so you know, we're going to add on Bitcoin dominance. I'm going to add on Bitcoin dominance. And let's go to 2017. 2017. Okay. You see where Bitcoin topped. The pink is Bitcoin dominance, okay? So Bitcoin dominance, here's its lows. It was going back up. Bitcoin dominance is going back up because more percent of money in the crypto market was in Bitcoin. Big flow into Bitcoin. Dominance is going up. But as Bitcoin was topping, watch what dominance was doing. It revisited those lows kind of right around Bitcoin's top. And then, boom, the bottom fell out. That is what the catalyst is for alt season. Let me put it this way. Once Bitcoin becomes too expensive to buy, that money's going to be going somewhere else. People are going to be taking profit or they're going to be rotating it as they have the last two cycles into dirt cheap altcoins. Altcoins can bleed against Bitcoin. It can do it all the way to the very top. Now, Bitcoin dominance went up gradually with Bitcoin last cycle. There was, some levels of divergence. But yeah, here we go. There's the top for Bitcoin. Look where Bitcoin dominance was. It was right around just a little bit under where its lows were. Okay. And then boom, the bottom fell out. Okay. Let me show you another chart. We're going to go to, actually, let's go through all these. Let's go through ETH Bitcoin. ETH Bitcoin. This is why I compare this cycle more to 2017. You can see in 2020, 2021, ETH against Bitcoin was pretty bullish for a bit. Okay. But look at what it did in 2017, just cratering against it. And look at this date. We're in early December, and it took a month. Alt season was here. Yes, it went higher, but it took a month for that to flip. And I think there's more similarities this cycle to 2017 than last cycle. So, we're still bottoming out. Maybe this process will take a few months. We'll see. Let's go to total 3 divided by Bitcoin. And so if you guys are confused what these mean, that 0.38, that means that the whole market cap outside of Bitcoin and ETH, all the altcoins combined outside of those two, is 38% of the market cap of Bitcoin. Okay, that's what that means. So let's look at this. In 2017, chopping sideways, got a little bit of positivity, came back down, okay, did sort of a double bottom, and then boom, exploded. Last cycle, it was coming up for a little bit. Obviously, we had that big rotation out into Bitcoin, and then all of a sudden, it doesn't take long. That's my whole point. Even last cycle with the total 3, it doesn't take long. And so I know this sucks to see. It sucks for me too. It sucks to see the altcoins not do well. But I'll remind you, I've been in the crypto market since 2017. It happens very fast at the end, should it happen again. I'm banking on it happening, but it happens very fast at the end. Let's go to others. This is the total market cap of all the altcoins outside the top 10. Okay. You can see how it looks very similar to total 3. Okay. It was chopping up, had that big sell off, and then boom. I remember how disappointed people were in Bitcoin at what was it? Probably like 2018, and then in 2020, there's Bitcoin's dead again, March of 2020. COVID time, and I remember people like, oh, alts are dead. I remember those conversations last cycle, and I'm seeing those conversations return this cycle. And when those conversations are returning again, we want to think as market psychologists look for value when there's fear. I'm not going to lie, I'm getting excited about it because even Bitcoin is getting ready to possibly break into new all-time high territory, and altcoins are still cheap. And so that tells me, man, that's a lot of money to rotate. I don't mind getting into alts. Am I going to possibly, this is a risk I'm taking. Am I going to lose some Satoshi value until that time? Sure. Is alt season guaranteed? No. Do I think it's probable? I think it is probable because consumer confidence, last 2 cycles, we've seen this rotation play out, and I've seen this narrative play out. Look at 2017, okay? Alt season was right in here. This move right here, altcoins exploded. So remember, it doesn't take much. It doesn't take much. We might bleed like we did here, and then rock it up. So you got to stick to your plan. Whatever your plan is, your plan has to be stronger than your emotions. I think that's a good phrase. Your plan has to be stronger than your emotions, because your emotions, the only times I've ever lost money is when I've made emotional decisions buying or selling. The only time I've ever not done well. So you want to have a plan, a strategy, write that sucker out. I know you haven't. Write it out to help you make smart decisions. All right, got some comments to catch up on. Let's see. Where was I? I try to stay pretty consistent with your vids and live streams, but my memory's trash. No worries, bud. All good. Bitcoin dominance still seems to have room to go up. Yes, I agree with you. This is the area I'm looking for now. And I hate to say it, I'm changing my perspective. I was wrong about this being the top. I don't care to I'm fine to admit when I'm wrong. Okay, I'm not an expert, but I'd be watching for the 71% area. Another catalyst, in my humble opinion, is the general sentiment. Agree. Without even reading the rest of your comment. When everyone agrees it's over, yes, 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 there will be no alt season. It's over. That's when the market makers start rotating. Inversely, we were talking about this Shiller P ratio. When everyone's saying soft landing, no recession, they're saying it up here. That's when your coworkers and family are like, hey, I bought this stock and I'm doing pretty good. Uh, yeah, be careful in those times. Retail, we are way earlier than 95% of retail. All right. A lot of YouTubers are saying the same. This is a lot like 2017. Cool. I don't watch a lot of crypto YouTubers personally. I think, you want to stick to your plan. If you're watching other YouTubers, my opinion, I take what they say with a grain of salt. I see, where does it line up? Where doesn't it? Because remember, what are all the crypto YouTubers and crypto people? We're retail. We think like retail. So, I try to be cautious of the sentiment. I have a lot riding on this. I hope it does well for you. Also, I hope you're being smart with what you're buying into. Nothing too risky, I hope. I got interested in the end of 2019. Okay. And then I think a lot of people thought 64, 65% dominance was the top as well. Yeah. Yeah. I think, we'll see, but this is the area I'm watching for. And also, going back to total three divided by Bitcoin. Yeah, I was calling for a bottom here at the 618, and the fact we're breaking under it, um, we could, I mean, if this happens, oh my God, um, that's not going to be pretty for alts. But when I take a look at alts, let's just go to my favorite alt, and I'm going to shill here for a moment. When it's at these prices like Chainlink, I'm more than happy dollar cost averaging in Chainlink right now. More than happy to do it. It's broken under that trend line. Yes, that sucks, you know, but we do have these series of, let's draw a new trend line. We do have these series of higher lows. I'm just curious where that one lines up. You know, sometimes you just got to play with it. I mean, if I see there's one way to look at alts, and that is like the altcoin pairings against Bitcoin. There's another way to look at alts, and that's just based off the U.S. dollar and going off of some of those charts. I think these are just fine. Um, let's see. The one consistent thing in the crypto is the ability to act outside of all expected constraints. Yeah, that's true. Um, I have a Dogecoin video I'm putting up later today. Nothing more true than that. Doge, the stupidest meme coin that just exploded, like did 1,000x or whatever from the bottom in 2017 to 21. I could have had Doge. I could have had Doge in 2017. I'm like, this thing's stupid. Why would I put my hard-earned money into Dogecoin? Who's the stupid one now? Me. So crypto is stupid, and it does stupid things. We can agree on that. Let's get into some altcoin technical analysis. Let's go through some of our top alts. Let's take a look at ETH. We'll take a look at the other ones real quick. Let's add on our, there's one indicator I think I'm going to have on here for a bit, and that's the stochastic. For a lot of cryptos, the weekly stochastic, not looking so great, but the monthly, I'll remind a lot of you guys, the monthly is looking very good. And so, this has been going across the board. I've seen this a lot where maybe we get a little bit of a sell off sometime soon, and then boom, we rock it. Ethereum got rejected off this 618 fib golden pocket area. You see this trend line of these higher lows, ran into that. That's not great. I do like ETH at this price. It's at the 200-week moving average. Down here, ETH was at the 100-month moving average. That called the bottom, for all we know, was that 100-month moving average. I'm not a huge fan of these big wicks. It's showing a lot of resistance between 2,500 and wherever this trend line is. Just say 2,900. So ETH could get back down to 2,100. Around this area maybe. If ETH is breaking under the 200, I'd be very concerned. But right now it's kind of coiling. I do not hate ETH at this area. And frankly, if you're able to get ETH anywhere 1,700 to where it is now, I don't think that's a bad area as far as looking at accumulating ETH. And my videos have been talking about, I think ETH can go to 10, 11K because when we go to ETH-Bitcoin, we have this beautiful trend line. And if it gets back to it, hell, if ETH only goes to zero point 0.4, we're talking about ETH being 40% of the market cap of Bitcoin. What is 40% of 3 trillion? If Bitcoin tops at 155K, that's a 3 trillion market cap. 40% is 1.2 trillion. Okay, 1.2 trillion is 40%. And so we go over to Ethereum here, 1.2 trillion, that's a 4x. A 4x, that's ETH at around 10K. I think ETH going to 10, 11K, it's also in the fibs too. We take a look at our fibs off log, 11K, that 2618. So if you're getting ETH down here, I'm taking a look at taking profits right in that range, the 7 to 11K. But I do think it can get close to that 11K area. If ETH gets to 10K, you think VeChain can get over 50 cents? I have not taken a look at VeChain in a while. Oh boy, what am I doing on my keyboard? VeChain. Which one do I want to take a look at? Let's do this one. I have not talked about VeChain in a bit. I'm curious, do you have any VeChain? This has been one I've looked at, and you think it can get to 50 cents. Okay, yeah, the 1618 is there at around 44 cents. So things can always wick above a little bit. So you have a 1618 target. Not bad. Yeah, as far as VeChain right now, I mean, if you love it, remember, we might see, we looked at dominance, we looked at total 3 Bitcoin. We might see some weakness in the altcoin market. So, do I think these are good discounts? Yes, if these altcoins do well. However, I do think there's possible more downside coming for some of these alts, possibly. But, if you're buying here, I don't blame you one bit. You're buying at really a low that's, it's been the low for the last year. So if you're buying down here, I don't blame you. And if it goes lower, then buy more at even cheaper. That's my strategy. If I like something enough to buy it here, I'm going to love buying it here. Okay. Link we took a look at. I appreciate that comment. Most underrated channel. I appreciate you guys right now. You're a massive bag holder, dude. We all have bags. Yeah, there's a couple altcoins. Every cycle I make a mistake. I'll go through my mistakes with you guys right here so you can learn from me. First cycle was Tron. Okay, I got Tron. I'm shitting you not. I got Tron down here at like 1/5 of a penny. I thought this thing was going up forever. I was being a greedy bastard. And, I eventually did take profits, but it wasn't anywhere. I made great money, but I could have made amazing money. It wasn't all the way down here, somewhere in here. So have price targets and don't be the Dogecoin millionaire. He's not a millionaire because he didn't take any realized profits. Until that money is in your bank account, you're not a millionaire. You're nothing. So have price targets where you will stay disciplined. And as I said earlier, your strategy should be stronger than your emotions. So have a price target. That's what I learned here. Okay. What did I learn last cycle? Last cycle, I learned this is that some of my altcoins did very well. And I did take some profits, so I was good about that. But then when it came down to here, there were other altcoin projects, and there was one I was like, oh, this thing's looking good. I'll get into it. And it went up a little bit, and I did not take profits. So don't buy anything on our way to the top or near the top. That was the mistake I made last time. Now is the time to buy before we top. We have not topped yet. So altcoins, once they show the rotation, do not buy anything, in my opinion. The massive run in alts really blinds people that aren't used to it. Greed takes over. Yes. I learned my lesson. I mean, I made money, but I could have made freaking 5 times more. And I'm like, damn it, that was like I could have bought another new car with that money. Anyways, they still made money, and each cycle, those lessons also have helped me make more money, such as from Nvidia. You know, 2022, I was getting Nvidia down here, and I was very happy with it. I already sold my Nvidia. I know it's going to new all-time highs, whatever, but I made a 10x within a year and a half. I'm taking that every time. Palantir, that's another one that I did very well with. I was getting a bunch down here, and I recently just sold my Palantir. So could it go higher? Sure. But I rather sell a touch too early than a touch too late, because when these things die, they die. And if something has a 600 P ratio, yeah, I'm done. I made my money, and I don't care anymore. Let's go into some other altcoins. Let's go into Jasmy. This is one of those kind of like your V chain we talked about earlier. Jasmy is one I think could be one of those diamonds in the rough. Maybe going up to what would we have here? Could it get to 3 cents again around that high, or a cent? We're talking about a 10x to, I don't know, a 15x or something. Yeah, we'll see. Um, no guarantee we have an alt season. That's true, Don. There is no guarantee. As I like to say, and I've heard this before, I from multiple people, but I'm sorry I can't give credit. In the stock market, in crypto, there are no certainties, only probabilities. I have consumer confidence based on what the charts are showing us, what the data is showing us, that I think it is still probable that we get another alt season. Is it possible it doesn't happen? Sure, anything's possible. But I would say, as far as what the charts are showing me, I still see it as probable. There is nothing to show that the alt season isn't going to happen. The charts have already showed us moves that have happened before. We can even take a look at Bitcoin dominance. Okay. Bitcoin dominance has gone up before. Every cycle. Okay. We're doing it more steady this time. Has Bitcoin dominance made a new high? No. So there's nothing to say, to me at least, unless you have some data to show otherwise, that we are certainly and probably not getting an alt season. We have not hit those levels yet. So respectfully, I disagree. Let's see. Was able to get my kid on Nvidia back when Terrace started, 94 share. He cashed out yesterday at the all-time highs. Awesome. Happy for you, dude. Don would love to see one, Me too. This cycle is technically still inside the window. That's what I'm saying. If Bitcoin dominance is getting up here, and let's say Bitcoin goes to 200K and all of a sudden has fallen off to like 100K and dominance is still going up, then I would agree. Yeah, we didn't get alt season this time. That would suck, and anything could happen. But, let's go to tether dominance. We haven't done this in a bit. Tether dominance. It ran into resistance right at that upper 100-week moving average. I was watching this as a possible top. Now it's still showing bullish, but a lot of resistance here off the moving averages. Why is tether dominance important, you might ask? Well, when tether dominance bottoms, we see tops in Bitcoin. This is another data point to see where are the tops. Okay. Bitcoin topping, tether dominance bottoming. Okay. Bitcoin topping, mid-cycle top, tether dominance bottoming. This was before COVID. Bitcoin top, tether dominance bottoming. Okay. First of the double tops, tether dominance bottoming, so on and so on. Okay. Let's go to recently. We had the 2024 March top, tether dominance bottoming. But now, tether dominance, eventually is going to start going down. I need to put a curved line on this chart. Bitcoin topping later last year, tether dominance bottoming. Bitcoin, look at that. It could still go higher. I think tether dominance could get to that 3.5% to 4%. If it gets down here, and we're not even near that yet. So I think Tether dominance, 5% of all money in crypto is in Tether. Value of $1, people retaining their Satoshi values. I think that's showing us there's still room to run. Do you see Tether dominance is the same as the entire stablecoin dominance? I'm contemplating your question right now. I have a silent thinking face. That is a great question. Do you see Tether dominance as the same as the entire stablecoin dominance? Mm-hmm. You know, I would say, is there a way? Let me take a look at this. Um, USDC. Do we have? I'm curious what this is going to show us. So let me explain it. I'm internally processing, now I'm externally processing. Um, not totally, not totally, because we have two stable coins here in the top 10 with any significant amount of market cap, USDC and Tether. Tether obviously has 2.5 times the market cap, so that's why I put more weight into this. But I am wondering, can we take a look at both of them together, and does that show a different story? So I wanted to take a look at USDC dominance, and I mean, I'd say it still lines up. And actually, we have this double bottom here. What else? So last cycle, the USDC dominance was going up, but at those macro lows, that's when we had those tops. Again, it has a lower market cap. Here it was a higher low, and that was a local top. So might we see? I'm just thinking out loud here. And welcome to disagree. That's kind of what we got last cycle with the double top. Ooh, sorry if I'm making any of you sick by watching this. We got one of these things here, okay? And at those lows was the top. And as this kept going higher, we were putting in new lows. Okay, you guys can see that. Are we going to get something similar where, at these higher lows, I try to take each chart on their own, but that is why I put more weight into Tether. But this is the first time I'm looking at this chart with y'all, and that's just the first observation I've come away with. Jordan is in the country, does a stable coin dominance chart that does the same kind as Tether is for Bitcoin. Jordan does a stable coin dominance chart. I'd be curious what the stable coin dominance chart is. If you know the ticker, please comment that below. By combining them together, it reflects the same. One stable coin dominance drops and indicates an influx into the crypto market. Pixel Pusher, thank you for sharing that. If you have that ticker, whatever the overall stable coin dominance chart is, please let me know. Am I able to? Is this it? I mean, I'm just typing it in right here. Is this it right here? Jordan Cameron, the YouTuber. Not familiar with him. Um, I'll try to give him check him out sometime. But yeah, let's see what we got here. So I hope this is, crypto stablecoin. I hope this is it. Because, that shows 8.23%. I would assume this is it. I would assume this is the chart. So bottom here, top there. Let's take a look at the double top. So, kind of like we saw with USDC, we have these trend lines here. Okay. Now, every cycle is going to be a little bit different. We have that nice trend line here, but it wasn't true for 2017. 2017 was down there. And so it flattens out here. Is it going to flatten out a bit more? Here we're on an angle. I would assume we flatten out more every cycle. And so, could we see, like, so far I'm taking a look at this as an anomaly. Now, if we're coming down lower, I do still see, like, this as a lower angle than here. And I think that's just going to happen more with diminished returns. I hope you guys are following what I'm saying right now. That each cycle, our tether dominance is going to be on a flatter angle. So I am somewhat confident with this. I'd be curious to see if this holds true. And if it does, what this is also showing us is this has room to go up. This is room to go up here. We can just draw that out. I'm not going to draw fibs from those, but I am going to draw it from here, from that top to this bottom. Yeah, I'd say the fibs are kind of honoring it right now. At that 0.5, we're under the 382 right here. Are we going to get to the 0.5, come back down? I don't know. This is just some quick technical analysis. All right, let's run through. If you have any requests for any other TA, let me know. I'm just going to run through a handful of others and probably wrap this up soon so I can go outside and enjoy the nice weather. Let's take a look at some miners, and let's get rid of, before I get rid of Bitcoin, something I talked about in this week's videos, but I do want to harp on it. Mining stocks top with Bitcoin, or at least they have in the past. So something to keep in mind. Mining stocks top with Bitcoin, whereas altcoins, this is a difference we found, altcoins rotate after. That has been something I've been harping on this week. Just want you guys to be clear about that. So if you're in any miners, keep that in mind. Wasn't trying to rhyme there or anything. As far as Mara, still bearish underneath all these fibs. I think it could still get, down to that 1270 area. Guys, I'm looking at altcoins, the dollar cost averaging. I like Link here. Link so far is the one where I'm like, for my next monthly budget, I might throw some money up there. Let's take a look at Riot. And we'll do Clean Spark as well. Riot possibly hitting some resistance here, the 3-2. Yeah, Riot is more risky than Mara, so if it came back down again, could it get to that $7 area? I love Riot around the $7 area. I'm just saying. And we also talked about Bitcoin dominance having room to run, total 3, Bitcoin having room to drop. That might mean longer amount of time for discounted prices for altcoins. So, we're seeing some altcoins at possible rejection areas. Let's go over to Solana. And Solana, just kind of chopping sideways a bit here. Do we have kind of a channel going on here? What is interesting to me is that Solana hit its 200-week moving average the moment it appeared. Like, what are the odds? It does look like it's possibly losing the 100. And so if it comes down lower, 123 an area to watch for Solana. We haven't taken a look at XRP. XRP was holding up better than any of the altcoins. So I was talking about it back here, how, if I were any of you XRP people who bought in at around 5 cents, why not take profit for a 6x after a detached parabolic move like that? Why not take profit? So if any of you XRP Army cult baggies didn't, I'm not sorry for you. Yes, I do have a bias against XRP. Not that I dislike it. I dislike the people. I dislike the cult thinkers who say XRP is going to have 5 times the global GDP. I think those people are morons. Sorry for, you got to let it out sometimes. I do think XRP, maybe it'd be able to get a top somewhere around 460 this cycle. Where's that next area? At best, $5 to $6, but yeah, XRP, coming back down to its former all-time high area. Maybe it'll settle here, hopefully for you XRP people. What's interesting to me, I took a look at this before, another 2017 comparison. 2017, what did XRP-Bitcoin do? Did a double top. There was a moment, I don't know if you guys know this, where XRP had a larger market cap than Ethereum in 2017. Believe it or not, XRP had a larger market cap than Ethereum for a moment in 2017. Is that going to happen again? I don't know. This channel obviously broke down, but then it got back into it. That's interesting. Not saying there's anything more to it. But if XRP did do a double top, maybe watch for this channel or that fib. Or if we're getting an alt season, I think XRP Bitcoin is one of those charts that's worth having in the back of your mind. If there's an alt season, outside of Ethereum, XRP is the next top altcoin. And if it's topping somewhere around here, that could be telling you to take profits. He uses USDT minus USDC. Okay. Sorry if your comment's been sitting there for a bit. USDT.D minus. Okay, maybe you meant the other one. UST.D minus USDC. Okay. What is going on? Let me hit the refresh button. Let's see what is going on here. I think, sorry if there's a little lag. All of a sudden I saw the buffering symbol. US. If this doesn't work, we're just going to move on. Or I'll go back to that first one he sent me. Yeah, that says invalid. So let's go to that first one. USDT.D minus USDC. All right. I would assume this is the chart. Yeah. I'll be honest with you. I'm like kind of wondering what to make of this. It does look like it could be bottoming out. Yeah. This is the one, isn't it? USDT. Okay. So if this is it, you had it correct. Okay, cool. Let's overlay Bitcoin. Let's see what we got here. I struggle with this just because, I mean, right here, yes, I'd say it's good at showing where a bottom would be, because as soon as Bitcoin and this bottomed, like USDT minus USDC went up, as it started going up, that was signaling a good bottom. But as far as signaling a top, like there wasn't, in my opinion, there isn't really anything here to say that's where a top was. So I'd say when you see that divergence, that shows where a bottom might be. So for next cycle, this is just what I'm taking away. That as this falls, if it starts coming up as Bitcoin is coming down, that might be where it is. But yeah, not sure what to make of this chart too much. RPL, we have a request. RPL / South Korean won. Okay, what is RPL? Well, let's just take a look at this. RPL. What do we know about RPL? Let's do some research. RPL. Rocket Pool, the number 310, crypto market cap of 100 million. So a 10x is 1 billion. A 100x is 10 billion. Something to keep in the back of your minds. When you look for price predictions, for me, when I look at price predictions, I look at round numbers. Where could there be a psychological level? So this thing has just been falling off a cliff. It came out January of 23. And yeah, how was it in March of 24? I'll say this, I don't love it. I'll tell you, it's already right now, it's underneath all the fibs. I don't love this chart. There's nothing to tell me it can't go lower. And I am concerned that it keeps getting hammered by the 50-week moving average. If you bought some right here, and let's say it got up to the 50-week moving average, you get a 2x, cool. I don't love this chart, I'm just being honest with you. If you happen to catch any of his videos, he can explain it better than my illiterate self. No worries. Pixel, I appreciate you sharing some of this stuff because, again, I want these live streams to be conversations. And I like looking at things I haven't looked at before, so I'll try to check them out. But to the consonant name, I kind of hate RPL. Yeah, I'll say this. I'm going to give you a couple altcoins that have taken money from me each cycle that kind of remind me of this. I don't even know if the ticker still exists. AppCoin, APPC. Does it still exist? I don't even know what any of these charts are. We're just going to click this. That is definitely not it. Um, AppCoin from 2017 was a chart that looked like your RPL. Another one, I know this one still exists. Frickin' hate this stupid coin. Uh, God's Unchained. Do you see what I'm saying? Not that any of these might not magically, go up, but I mean, you can see there what a piece of crap it is. It just keeps putting new lower lows. Watch out for those altcoins. I don't know what their community is like, how how degenerate they are, but that these are a couple of coins it reminds me of. AppCoin was one; it just kept falling forever until it was dead and then gone from 2017, 2018. Gods Unchained. I Yeah, not that RPL can all of a sudden miraculously get 100x, but remember what I talked about earlier. Is it probable? I'm not feeling that. I'm not feeling it's probable. Let's take a look at some of, I've been doing a lot of analysis of top altcoins. There's a couple that I wanted to go back to. Ondo. Ondo is one where I was looking at possibly, this one's still looking very bearish, but I do wonder if, yeah, it's not really a good channel there. Let's clean this up a little bit. That ascending channel worked, it broke down out of it. But yeah, Ondo is one I was looking at. Still a lot of weakness. I might be patient with Ondo. Fetch. Fetch was another one. This coin, I was able to get some down here. Was very happy with it. I did take profits. And then it went freaking ape. But Fetch, this is another one. This to me looks like a channel. These are just some. This is, has AI in the name, and you guys all know how stupid crypto is. That, if it has AI in the name and we're in an AI bubble, it's something to watch out for. Let's take a look at that fib. We'll go from the last cycle high to low. Yeah, getting that 76. I kind of like Fetch here, not going to lie. I did get down to that 618. So if that breaks down again, if Fetch gets down to 37 cents, I might be buying a bit of it. I do think in an alt season, in an AI bubble potentially, that Fetch.ai could run. It's also like, I want to say in the top 50, though it's called something else right now. Yeah, artificial superintelligence, Fetch. So I do think that one has room to run. We took a look at Ondo. I want to take a look at ICP because ICP can be a big piece of crap. But yeah, for example, ICP, it's one of those kind of, as I was talking about with RPL, I am worried about ICP being one of those. But if you're going to buy it around here, again, I don't blame you, but I would be cautious about it. This number was not real. I don't know why charts do that. Makes it really hard to calculate, but that market cap literally never existed. Yeah. Near, I like taking a look at some of these other top 50, top 100 alts time to time, getting a feel. Near is one, again, I don't hate it here. Could it go lower? Sure. I don't have any near, but this has been one that's been interesting to me. What are some other ones? SUI, we've talked about this one before. Looking very strong, came all the way up, did great. So SUI, people are talking about this one maybe being next cycle Solana. Believe it or not, I think it's the number 10 crypto. We're going to be wrapping things up here pretty shortly. Number 13 crypto. And then it kind of reminds me, there's SEI. I have a friend who bought some SEI. Yeah, decent move lately. Decent move. Though it is running into its micro, Actually, macro 382, high to low, 382 right there around 29 cents. And if it gets rejected there, I would not be surprised it comes lower. And then I don't know if you guys have any of these. And then I'd be taking a look, somewhere around these levels if this rejection holds up. So, all right, guys, I think that's going to do it for today. Thank you so much for tagging along, having a conversation. Pixel Pusher, I appreciate you, dude. It's nice talking to you. Hope you guys are enjoying the summer. Have some 4th of July plans. And yeah, make sure you're getting outside. Get away from charts for a little bit. It's okay to get away from charts because, as you can see, summertime is the time people get away from charts. Not that you can't buy in at good discounts. I think there's some great discounts out there, but it's okay to get away from charts too. So anyways, thank you all so much for being here, and appreciate all of you. Yep, you're welcome, guys. Thank you all for being here. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care.